Hello. This video is about gluten. You will find out what it is and why it is dangerous. Subscribe to the channel and listen carefully. There are 1% of people on the planet who consume gluten. Really very dangerous. This is due to an autoimmune disease, celiac enteropathy or celiac disease. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease in which gluten is contraindicated. During the use of gluten, their immune system creates antibodies that, in particular, damage the intestinal walls. This disrupts the absorption of nutrients by the body. As a result, a person does not receive the vital elements, iron, folic acid, and like that. Even 150 milligrams of gluten is contraindicated for people with celiac disease. Therefore, the only way for them to use a large assortment of cereals, pasta, and pastries that people usually eat is to buy the same products, but without gluten. Or even refuse them. Diagnosis of celiac disease is possible only by a blood test for antibodies and a biopsy. If the diagnosis is confirmed, only then you can go on a gluten-free diet. The myth that gluten is harmful to health is only partly true and only for people with celiac disease. Celiac disease is intolerance to foods containing gluten. The disease affects the small intestine and leads to disruption of the normal activity of the stomach and the development of dystrophy. Gluten intolerance affects only 0.5% population. This is a rather rare disease, which is usually diagnosed at an early age. Gluten is especially dangerous for people with a genetic predisposition and individual intolerance of this protein. Such a disease is called celiac disease. Despite the fact that it occurs in 1% of people, according to statistics, 1 in 3 discovers some signs of celiac intolerance. In patients with celiac disease, intestinal function deteriorates and immunity decreases sharply. The immune system recognizes gluten as a foreign protein and begins to actively fight by hitting the walls of the small intestine. Fortunately, this can be avoided by completely eliminating gluten-containing foods. To find out if you have gluten intolerance, just remove the foods that contain it from the diet. After 10 to 14 days, when the intestinal microflora is fully restored, return to gluten-containing foods again. By the reaction of the body, you will immediately understand whether you have hypersensitivity to such products or not. For healthy people who do not have a proven intolerance, gluten-free foods carry no danger. The same wheat contains a lot of fiber, which is very important for our body. Following a newfangled gluten-free diet, we, of course, lose weight, but this has nothing to do with gluten restriction. Refusal of bread and rolls, fast food, store confectionery and other food waste in any case will make your waistline narrower. Just remember the basic rules that come in handy. To everyone who wants to start eating right and lose weight at the same time, replace white bread with whole grains, replace industrial sweets with fruits, berries and dark chocolate with the content cocoa not less than 70%, replace oatmeal and couscous with gluten-free cereals, amaranth, quinoa, buckwheat, wild rice, corn porridge and millet. Even knowing what gluten is, not many realize the full extent of its danger to health. The study of this substance became of interest to scientists and nutritionists more recently, but even those data that have already been obtained cause a healthy horror. Regularly using gluten-containing foods can turn from a healthy, full-fledged and cheerful person to a disabled person in just a few years. Many people believe that gluten use is strictly contraindicated only for those who have hypersensitivity to this substance. However, this is not so. Gluten can harm even a completely healthy person. To visually see what gluten is, you can conduct a simple experiment, which will require only a piece of bread and a glass of water. Having thoroughly kneaded the bread, you need to roll a ball out of it and rinse with water. unpleasant viscous mass resembling a frozen paste, and will be gluten-free. Now imagine, the same mass enters the stomach, and in much larger quantities, enveloping all the food in one indigestible gluten irritates the walls of the small intestine, causes bloating and inhibits the digestive process itself. The result is not long in the short term. In the future, after such a meal, bloating and heaviness in the stomach will follow. In the long term, inflammatory processes in the gastrointestinal tract and food allergy. However, gluten harms not only digestion, both the brain and the nervous system are hit. The study of this issue was thoroughly engaged in the famous neuroscientist David Perlmutter. In his practice, he repeatedly wondered what destroys the brain activity of his patients, and as a result found an obvious relationship between the use of gluten-containing products and health status. All recent studies indicate gluten as a trigger for the development of not only dementia, but also epilepsy, headaches, depression, schizophrenia, dementia, and even a decrease in libido. In his book Food and the Brain, he consecrated this issue with his inherent pedantry and scrupulousness, calling, "People give up gluten in order to maintain their health. Before applying these recommendations, consult your doctor." Subscribe to the channel and share this video with your friends.